Good to have you back with us. Pat Ryan and my merry band of contributors, Ian Castleberry, standing by on the DC Creasman Jewelers Wise Lines because we got lots of Major League Baseball to get to. Free agency signing period, December 2nd, the proposed lockdown of Major League Baseball. So there are teams trying to get ahead of that and some big signings coming up. We'll get to that in just a moment because his appearance presented today by our friends at Happy Hill Restaurant, feeding Asheville since 1967. All right, Ian, so good to have you as always, my friend. And free agency is in full swing in Major League Baseball, a huge signing earlier today. So, gosh, where do we start? How about Michigan beating Ohio State?
Well, if you insist.
Yeah, forget the monkey, dude. The gorilla was just lifted off the backs of Wolverines fans, bud.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's been a 7-year gorilla. Look, a little bit of a mea culpa for me, too, because, Jim Harbaugh lost me last season, I never thought I would write it, but I said, I think it was time for Michigan to move on. But the athletic department, they kind of leaned on Jim. They cut his salary. He had to earn a lot of it in incentives. And Harbaugh he completely overhauled that coaching staff. I mean, it really is admirable. He brought in 6 new assistants who were younger, who were more hungry, who were willing to recruit, and really got the players to buy in. And I think that's something we haven't seen at Michigan over the past at least 2-3 years, where you had guys who I think were a little bit more concerned about going to the NFL than beating Ohio State. And you just didn't see that this year. The buy-in was there. I would go back to, Wisconsin, when they were jumping on the sidelines. Wisconsin likes to play jump around before the fourth quarter, and the Michigan sideline was into that. And they were confident. I mean, in the third quarter, I think, maybe even the second quarter, I think Michigan's going to win this game. I mean, they could not stop Michigan's run. And, that's pretty foreign feeling against Ohio State the past 8 years. But, credit to Jim Harbaugh. I think he's done a great job. And I think, you and Chris were talking about the college football coaching carousel and just how fast you have to get it done these days. And I would point to Michigan and say, look, it took Jim Harbaugh 7 years, and maybe that was longer. Well, I know it was longer than Michigan fans preferred, but I think he was rewarded. It took him 7 years to figure it out, to really stamp his identity, to get the players that he really wanted in there, to get the coaching staff that he really wanted. And I'm trying really hard not to get ahead of myself, but I don't think they're done yet.
Oh, I don't think they are. But they beat Iowa in the championship game. They're in. There's no doubt about that. So good luck to your people, man. It was good to see you and Blades both have a happy weekend, man. That means a lot.
I watched that entire game again yesterday, so I'm still feeling it.
He's still, yeah, man. Oh, that's funny. All right, now let's get to some baseball. Ian Castleberry on the DC Creasman Jewelers Wise Lines, presented by Happy Hill Restaurant. All right, here we go, buddy. Free agent signings are definitely picking up ahead of that proposed December 2nd lockdown. And Ian, I know some big names are putting pen to ink for new teams, but none bigger than Max Scherzer. I mean, the Mets are on, it's like they won the lottery and are just spending wildly. 3 years, $140+ million. He's 37, but I still feel like the Mets may be getting a pretty good deal on this. What do you say?
Oh, I think Max Scherzer was the best starting pitcher on the market. Maybe not long-term, as you said, 37 years old. Robbie Ray or Kevin Gausman, maybe the better long-term buy. But Max Scherzer, he was outstanding last year. I think he should have won the National League Cy Young Award. 15-4, 2.46 ERA. He was even better when he was traded to the Dodgers. 7-0, 1.98 ERA. He did run out of gas in the postseason, and it was just because his workload caught up with him. But this is exactly what New York Mets fans were hoping for when Steve Cohen bought the team. And Steve Cohen, he's a hedge fund billionaire. If any listeners watch the show Billions on Showtime, Bobby Axelrod is basically based on Steve Cohen. So that's the aggressive type A personality who's just going to go out and find anybody's price. And he's done that. They signed Max Scherzer to a 3-year, as you said, I think it's close to $140 million. It's the highest average annual salary ever given to a free agent starting pitcher. I mean, he's going to make 20% more than Garrett Cole, who was previously the highest paid free agent pitcher. And that's not all that the Mets have done. They signed Mark Canha, an outfielder. They signed the top free agent center fielder on the market, Starling Marte. They bolstered their infield, getting Eduardo Escobar. I'm not certain they're done yet. I mean, they have an outstanding top two of their starting rotation, Jacob deGrom, now Max Scherzer. The other three guys, some young arms in there like Tyler McGill, David Peterson, Taijuan Walker was a good signing for them. They might have to sign another veteran starting pitcher. But right now, that starting rotation, you have two of the best starting pitchers in baseball. You have an outstanding lineup with Francisco Lindor hopefully coming back to hit, as well as his contract sets up for expectations. So, big moves for the New York Mets.
All right, every move after this is a little smaller move, but probably big to some teams, Ian Castleberry. So any other big names out there just signing?
Well,
a lot of money there.
This is breaking news. Robbie Ray, who I said might have been the best starting pitcher on the free agent market, the American League Cy Young Award winner, he signed. I don't know if it's official yet, but it looks like he's close to signing a 5-year, $115 million deal with the Seattle Mariners.
Wow.
2.84 ERA last year, 248 strikeouts in 193 innings. Kevin Gausman, who had an outstanding year for the San Francisco Giants, he signed a 5-year deal, $110 million with the Blue Jays. And then finally, the shortstop market, the quiet period has ended. Marcus Semien signs a 7-year, $175 million deal with the Texas Rangers. The Rangers are definitely making moves out there as well. Now, Semien wasn't necessarily the top shortstop on the market, but he was certainly in the top 5. And now if he's set the bar, we'll see if other guys like Carlos Correa, Trevor Story, Javier Baez, Corey Seager begin to sign before this December 2nd deadline.
Wow. And speaking of the Mariners, didn't they traded for, was it Adam Frazier, the all-star second baseman? They look to be gearing up for a run in 2022 and beyond.
Yeah, the Mariners, they almost made the playoffs this year as a wild card. Yeah, they acquired Adam Frazier, who hit 305, all-star second baseman, first for the Pirates, and he was traded to the Padres. His production maybe was a little bit less with the Padres. I think that they moved him around to different positions. Maybe the pressure of a pennant race factored in. But, he's traded to Seattle, and Seattle has an outstanding hitter to go with some of the young talent that they're building out there in Seattle. So between Robbie Ray, adding Adam Frazier, a team that was very close to the postseason, that might be the push they need to get them in.
We're joined by Ian Castleberry. Of course, Ian writes for thecomeback.com, awfulannouncing.com, two national websites with sports and pop culture. And, of course, does radio hits right here in Asheville. The Wise Guys, always grateful for that, for sure. And Ian, Ian's appearance, by the way, presented by Mike Lawrence and the great staff at Happy Hill Restaurant. Ian, which team or maybe teams you think should be active in free agency but are standing still?
Where are the New York Yankees? I'm sure the Yankees fans are, they're banging their head against the wall. Like, what? They didn't sign Max Scherzer. They didn't get Starling Marte, who they really need a center fielder. Now, all of that talk's going to go away if they sign one of these top shortstops. Of course, Carlos Correa is the best player available on the market, but Corey Seager might actually be a better fit as a left-handed bat in what's a really heavily right-handed lineup for the Yankees. So I would look for the Yankees still to make a move on one of these shortstops, but there hasn't really been a lot of heat with the Yankees and the top free agents. The Boston Red Sox also in the AL East. You have the Yankees and the Red Sox both looking at the Blue Jays making all these moves. The Red Sox, we keep reading every time a starting pitcher signs, a free agent starting pitcher like Eduardo Rodriguez, like Steven Matz, maybe not one of the top guys like Max Scherzer, but we keep seeing the reporters who cover the Red Sox saying, the Red Sox were in on that pitcher, but they haven't signed one yet. They signed Michael Wacha, who's a good pitcher for the back end of the rotation, but they might need an ace, and they haven't gotten one yet.
Man, if I was coming off that Garrett Cole signing, 10 years, $136 million, I might be a little hesitant as well, man. that's turning out to maybe not be the best signing, but we'll wait and see as Ian Castleberry joins the Wise Guys. We got questions. He's got answers. And finally, Ian, who are some of the bigger names? You mentioned Carlos Correa and a few others. Carlos may be going to the Yankees, but of these bigger names, what teams are they rumored to be going to?
Yeah, all the shortstops I mentioned, Correa, he could be going to the Yankees. The Tigers are kind of the team everybody thinks are going to, they need a star. They need a shortstop. They might be the one team that could say, oh, $300 million, okay, we don't want to pay that much, but that's what we have to pay to get a superstar player. Corey Seager, there's talk that I mentioned him with the Yankees. The Texas Rangers, even though they signed Marcus Semien, there's talk they might go after Corey Seager as well. Trevor Story, a former Colorado Rocky, former Asheville tourist, he's also out there. And Javier Baez, formerly of the Cubs and the Mets, also one of the top free agent shortstops available. The big names on the free agent market, Chris Bryant, haven't heard him attached to any team yet. Freddie Freeman, the expectation is that he's going to re-sign with the Braves, but there hasn't been any movement, any smoke on that yet. And then other players, Nick Castellanos, a top slugger for the Cincinnati Reds. There's some talk that the Miami Marlins might be interested in him, though maybe he might be out of their price range. And then maybe the top free agent starting pitcher left, Marcus Stroman. No team attached to him yet. Maybe the big names had to kind of set the market. But Marcus Stroman is probably, if we're talking about a team that needs starting pitching and hasn't gotten one, Marcus Stroman might be the one guy to zero in on.
All right, we'll be keeping an eye on it as Ian Castleberry does each and every day. And I got to think Freddie Freeman and the Braves are going to come to some kind of agreement. It just matters, when that's going to go down. By the way, Curt Schilling, I saw a story where someone took an early look at one of the voters for the Hall of Fame who always voted for Curt Schilling, has not voted this year for Curt Schilling. This is his final year of eligibility, Ian, and we may have talked about this briefly last week, but where does he stand in terms of getting in on his final try?
Normally his chances would be good. He got, I think, nearly 72% of the vote last year, so it's not difficult to imagine that he would make that jump to 75. But, he's been very outspoken about how he wanted to be taken off the ballot. The Hall of Fame said, no, we're not going to do that. He's insulted a lot of the voters, saying, they don't know what they're talking about when it comes to voting for the Hall of Fame. So voters like the one you mentioned may have said, okay, if he doesn't want me to vote for him, I'm not going to vote for him. So he may be the one guy we've seen who is 71%, 72% on the verge of going into the Hall of Fame and actually move backwards because he's such a-hole.
Jerk. Yeah, I like your word better, quite frankly. I agree with you on that. And we should point out as well, the Golden Days Era Committee has been formed as well. It's basically, looking back and maybe inducting players and general managers from the bygone era, but Hall of Famers Rod Carew, Fergie Jenkins, Mike Schmidt, Ozzie Smith, all solid guys are among the 16 voters for the Golden Days Era Committee. I think they're voting Sunday on that, so hopefully we'll see guys like Roger Maris, Gil Hodges, Minnie Minoso, Dick Allen. I mean, these are great players not in the Hall of Fame. So, Ian, maybe on Monday we can spend a little time talking about who got in and who didn't get in the Golden Days Era Committee.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, there should be some big names who people might be surprised aren't in the Hall of Fame. You mentioned Roger Maris. Of course, he held the single-season home run record, but maybe didn't have a Hall of Fame career. But, will a second look by this Golden Era Committee give him the push to get in that players like Harold Baines, previously who didn't get in, get a second chance from a second look like this.
Yeah, Buck O'Neil is not in the Hall of Fame.
That's unbelievable.
Thank you, Ian. I was just going to say that's a disgrace. That needs to be rectified. Honestly, it really does, because he's done. I mean, he was a great Negro League player. Let's not forget that. He maybe not was a Josh Gibson or a cool Papa Bell, but he was a very good player back in his day. Of course, like many Negro League players back in the day, denied the opportunity to play Major League Baseball. But Buck O'Neil did a lot more for baseball after he retired than he played. And that's saying a lot, because he was a really good player. He has got to get in. And hopefully the committee will make that happen. We'll recap that coming up on Monday's show. My friend, always great to catch up.
Okay, outstanding.
Hey, looking forward to it. In the meantime, have a great day. Thanks for joining us, Ian.
All right, take care, Pat.
You got it, friend. That's a really talented dude right there. Ian Castleberry writes for thecomeback.com, awfulannouncing.com. He's also an editor as well, with both publications, and he keeps very busy. We keep him busy here on the show for sure. Lucky to have Ian with the Wise Guys, and Ian's appearance, of course, via the DC Creasman Jewelers Wise Lines presented by Happy Hill Restaurant.